Hello and welcome to this 2024 Anti-Trafficking Internationals Conference. It is my pleasure, as Ashley Miller, the Director of Outreach for Anti-Trafficking International, to introduce you to an incredible man, Claude Jones, who has an organization, Human Trafficking, Get Off the Stool of Do Nothing. Claude is the founder of a company named Failure Turned into Success Incorporated. When he started his journey, he was sick, broke, homeless, and coming out of a very bad marriage. With no credit, money, or support, he reached a level of success that no one would ever believe would come true for him. He was blessed to have purchased a semi-tractor, and when he signed the contract for his truck, he reached down into his pocket and all he had left to his name was 1 penny. Instead of worrying about his own needs, he chose to give out scholarships to people in need. Since that time, he was featured in 13 magazines that span throughout the United States and Canada, that gave him millions of dollars of advertisement. Since that time, he has written a book entitled It Is Time to Heal, the Claude Jones Story, and he has had great success with this book. He has been able to inspire a lot of people to take a chance on themselves by stepping out on their faith and moving forward with it. Without further ado, I will give you the floor, Claude Jones, and it is such a pleasure to hear from you. And I know our audience will be so blessed to have that you speak into their lives. One quick note I do want to mention to the audience. The most important thing that we do want to make sure you know is self-care. If at any point you need to step away, take a break, or if you feel that it's a little overwhelming, we'd ask that you first and foremost take care of yourself and be sure that you have the support you need in case anything comes up within the time of this presentation. All right, Claude, I give you the floor. It's a pleasure to welcome you here.
Thank you for having me. First of all, I just want to say this is not about me. This is about a fellow human being. And what I see with this human trafficking is injustice to everyone. I was blessed to have started a company called Failure Turned into Success Incorporated. When I started this, I was down and out with the blues or whatever you want to call it. But I've had great success at it. But I'm taking on a new cause, and it's this human trafficking, the new modern day slavery. And I wanted to find more about it. So I wanted to find out a little about the history of it. And from what I've read, it's been going on since time began. But now in 2024, we have technology, whether using social media platforms and a whole bunch of things. But then I look back in the history of America as it pertains to slavery with African Americans. I come to find out that there was a lot of trafficking going on there. And in that, when they abolished the slave trade, they had to come up with a new way to produce slaves. So the slave master decided that he was going to get him a young buck. And he was going to force that young buck to mate with a slave woman. Well, there is a particular man that I want to talk about. His name is Peter Seca. He was also a slave, but he was living in Brazil. And this man stood 7 feet 2 inches tall. You know, he was a good looking man. And the master came up with a plan saying, you know, if I mated him with women, they would produce his seed or his DNA, and I can take them and mold them into a proper slave. Well, what's so fascinating about this guy is that he had 200 children that he never got a chance to speak to, that he had no involvement in their lives, because as soon as they found out that that slave woman was pregnant, they moved them on to the next one. And so what's even more dehumanizing is that when the slave woman had the child, that she had no control over it either. And so therefore they would take the children and sell them to other plantations. One of the things that they would do, the slave owners would invite their friends over to actually watch them mate. My whole problem with this is that they use one word, and it's called fear, putting fear in the hearts and minds and soul of individuals. Albert Einstein said that this world is too dangerous of a place to live, not because of those that do evil, but because of those that stand by and allow it to happen. I commend Homeland Security for the efforts that they're doing in human trafficking, the law enforcement, and all of these organizations such as ATI. But there's a factor that is missing, and that's in the communities. They can only do so much. And a lot of people today say, well, I'm not getting involved because it does not have anything to do with me. I was also taught by some great preachers that if you can't shed a tear every now and then for a human being, you have no soul. These individuals out here kidnapping women and children. And the thing that's most disheartening to me is the babies. And before I go into that, I want to talk a little bit about human trafficking and how it affected me. I was 11 and 12 years old at the time. I went across the street to dig some worms because we were going fishing that day. And in doing that, a white couple pulled up and they started talking to me about different things. And then the man finally came out and asked me, did I want to have sex with his wife? And I looked at him and her and I'm like, no. The next thing I know, unbeknownst to me, was they had someone else in there. And this individual slid the door back and I saw the gun and I hit him with that hole and I ran like hell. My baby brother asked me why hadn't I told anybody about this? I said, because who was going to believe me? They never did believe in the thing that I said, so I just kept it to myself. But the thing that it created inside me was fear. From that moment to about 48 years of my life, that fear resides in me today. Every time I go outdoors, I'm looking around to see where that couple is at. When I would leave the home, I would make sure I was with somebody, or if I was out by myself, I would talk loud enough for other folks to hear me because I was that afraid of those people coming back trying to kidnap me. I wonder in my mind, if they had kidnapped me, would anybody have stood up for me back then? I wonder in my mind if they had gotten a hold of me, what were they going to do? Were they going to sell me into sex? Were they going to hang me? Were they going to burn me, cut me up, take parts of my body for trophy? I don't know. But that fear impacted not only my teenage years, but it impacted my entire life. And so therefore, when I look at human trafficking, I hadn't had the physical part of it, but it's the emotional part. And that emotional part is what I call raping of the mind. It controls you. It makes you do things that you normally wouldn't do. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of what I'm talking about. And these are true stories. There was an infant baby, and her mother had her in her arms. And this woman had a drug addiction problem. And so she got with her drug dealer. And with that drug dealer, she said, I will give you my child for $20 worth of crack cocaine. The drug dealer said, fine. And they swapped out. The drug dealer went and sat on that couch and took his private section and molested that child. I can only imagine in my mind the fear that was going through that baby's mind. Because if she had survived it, the physical scars may have healed, but that mind would be ruined forever. Putting the fear inside somebody and controlling their every move. But the sad part about it is that after he got done, the child died and the mother was still sitting over there on the other chair smoking crack cocaine. That is a shame before God. I don't understand why people would need to hurt an innocent child, let alone a grown person. The next example is another 5-year-old little girl. Her mother put her into drug dealer's hand for $200. Beautiful child. This man took this child and raped and pillaged her body. And then after he was done, he choked her out and then discarded her body like it was a piece of trash. After that, they found the mother and that guy guilty. But here's what's so disheartening about it, that the mother got up and said that she was sorry for what had happened, and she was only doing what she had to do to survive. And the last statement was, I am still a good mother. If you are in these communities and you know this stuff is going on and you do absolutely nothing about it, I hold you just as accountable as the human trafficker, as the pedophile, the predator, because you have an obligation as a human being to step up and help those that can't help themselves. I want those victims out there to know that we are standing for you. We are looking for you. We're doing our best trying to get to you, but we can't do it by ourselves. In these communities, you know what's going on. And all we can do is ask. And if fear is a factor in your decision why you're not going to help, I have a simple plan. Call outside your state. They will not ask you any questions. They will tell you, they will deal with it after they take the information and move on. I just learned the other day that human trafficking is also entering into the churches, which is a sad state. How they can actually go up and recruit children in these churches. I also know and seen that these social media sites are playing a heavy role in human trafficking. Be vigilant about what you allow yourself to get into over that internet. As much as I love modern technology, it will be the death of us if we are not careful. I'll talk about the migrants for a moment. And with the migrants, I'm not going to get into the issue of whether they should or should not be here. What I'm looking at is the fact that I've seen young women, I've seen children, seen pregnant women coming across that border. And there have already been incidents where people have tried to kidnap them and put them in the sex trade. Even in my profession, I am a professional tractor trailer driver. I run all over this country, seen a lot of different things. And on top of that, we go into the truck stops and we have what we call lot lizards. For you all that don't know what that is, they're prostitutes. A lot of times you got guys that are sitting up in the middle of the night with nothing else to do, just waiting for an opportunity for a prostitute to come out. They get them up in the truck, they do whatever, next thing you do, they kill them and take them across state line. This is why law enforcement has such a hard time tracking down who that individual is, because they were removed out of that state. And even in my profession, we have truck drivers that are hauling people from across that border back in trailers. 6 months ago, they caught a guy, had 51 people that died inside that trailer. It is a shame that it is going on, but just about in every walk of life, somebody is doing something in that area. I also want to commend an organization called Truckers Against Trafficking, which I am a member of. There are like 4 million truck drivers out there. And I want to take it a step further. Not only should the truckers be vigilant about this, I would like to ask the Uber drivers, the DoorDash drivers, taxi cabs, school bus, city bus, charter buses, truck. If you have any form of transportation and you see this stuff going on, stop and call somebody to try to get these people up out of these situations. With that fear in mind, like I said, it's in my head. And I have a psychiatrist, and she has been able to help me redirect that fear, because at night, that fear comes alive. That's why I say raping of the mind, because your body heals, but your mind is still clicking on that stuff. And I've looked at some of these videos, and I looked at these women and these children, and you can see that that mind has been raped. I asked the psychiatrist, if you run across an individual that is going through that, please be patient with them. My doctor, Dr. Teresa Jeffries, she is a wonderful woman, very patient woman, and has helped a lot of people over the years to get through whatever it is that they're struggling with. Because when you are found, you are going to need some help to try to get past all of this foolishness. Women in trucking. I want to say to you all that be vigilant when you come into the truck stop, especially at night. And in trucking, it's very hard to find parking spots at times. You end up parking in way back in the back, and there are people up watching. I pray that none of you ever get caught, but I just ask that you be vigilant about what you do. You know, I wonder in my mind when people say that I'm not getting involved, I'm wondering in my mind back to Harriet Tubman when she escaped from slavery. I'm wondering if she had said, you know, I'm not going back down there. You know, I got free, let them do their own thing. I'm wondering in my mind with the Jewish Holocaust, if those that stood up decided to say, you know, I'm not getting involved, I wonder where they would be. I even look at Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Rosa Parks and all those people, if they decided not to get involved and just said, I'm only going to worry about me, myself, and I'm going to get my church, I'm going to preach my sermons, get me a home out there in the suburbs, and I'm going to live ghetto fabulous. And I often wonder about Jesus, if he decided that he was not going to get involved, saying that, Dad, I know I come down here to do this thing for you, but kind of changed my mind because they're not worthy of my love. I'm going to get with my brother Satan, and we're going to do our own thing. And the reason I brought those four things up, they don't have anything to do with human trafficking, but they do have one word in common: fear. These individuals stood up regardless to the consequences to themselves. They fought and stood for individuals that they never met before because they were trying to make a difference. What about you? What are you willing to do to help your fellow human being? Also, I want to say that there's somebody talking about making America great again. Well, how can we make America great when we are the leading contributor to human trafficking? How can we sell democracy and all these other different things to all these other nations when over here we got millions of people that are caught up in human trafficking, and yet no one seemingly will stand up to do anything for them? See, I know what's that like firsthand, not to have anyone to stand up for you. And it's a bad feeling not to know that no one will stand up to protect you or keep you or tell you that it's going to be all right. So with all of that going on, it's still, I am still trying to stand up for those that don't have a voice. In reference to some other stories, countries that we help support financially, Haiti is one of them. And I'm not saying all the citizens of Haiti are bad, but there was a situation down there where they had 30 young girls ranging from the age of 9 to 13 years old that were being sold. And there was this individual, he went undercover as a pedophile to get those girls out of that situation. And even a couple of them had gotten pregnant. You can tell that somebody had been messing with them because they were blossoming from their bodies. Their bodies were growing. And so the guy told the people that, he said, well, I'll give you this amount of money right now and the rest of it when you bring them to the boat. Then he said, when they took the kids to the boat, he said to one of the individuals, well, I guess I done put y'all out of business. They looked at him and said, no, we got more. But it amazes me how no one in that country knew that that stuff was going on. I want to look at Afghan for a minute and two little 9-year-old girls. Dad sells them to a 70 and 75-year-old man. One was because of a debt, one because he couldn't put food on the table. I don't care how bad it gets. I'm not selling my child. And if I see this stuff going on out there, I'm mad enough to go up and try to do something about it. I'm asking everyone that's in these communities, please, if you see this stuff going on, think about if it was your child. Think about if it was your daughter. Think about if it was your family member. Think about how I just told you that little child, that little innocent child was raped and died. That could be you. At the end of my journey, if you want to say something about me, say that I tried to help somebody, that I tried to inspire somebody to do the right thing. And even in my era of judgment, that I'm still trying to uphold. I have people in my life now that it took me the longest to let them in, and that was my wife. She has my back in ways that I've never had before. And I got a child now. And he did something that really touched my heart. He said, Dad, he wrote a paper saying that I was his hero. And that thing got to me because I've never been anybody's hero. And so I talked to him and we had a conversation. I said, I know you wrote about me being your hero. I said, but you and your mother are mine because you all keep me grounded and you stand up and you defend me when things are going wrong. I'm here to say to those that the victims, I'm sorry that they did that to you. And if I could do anything to help ease your pain, or reach out to ATI, and I'll do my best to help you. But I am truly sorry for the pain that you all are going through because nobody should have to suffer through that. It's not just the pimps and the dope dealers and people of that nature that you think would be doing this. You got politicians, you got judges, you got priests in the church. So you got people from all backgrounds that are involved in this human trafficking. And so what I want to say is thank you all for allowing me to do this. And I hope and pray that my words will help somebody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claude. Such a pleasure that we had you here today. And I just think this is such a message that will resonate with so many. And just, you're such a courageous warrior. And I thank you for the work you do.